So starting with number 1, I want to perform the following operations and simplify the radicals. So what can I do first for D? Divide. I want to combine them under the same square root and simplify the inside. What's 72 divided by 6? 12. So I have the square root of 12, and then from here I can just simplify. What are 2 factors of 12? 3 and 4, or 6 and 2 would work. You'll end up with the same answer. What are 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. So what would I circle? The 2's. What comes to the outside? A 2. What stays on the inside? 3. So my answer here is 2 square root 3. Let's look at E. What should I do first? I can combine them and divide. So it's 50 divided by 5. So I have the square root of 10. What are 2 factors of 10? 5 and 2. Can I break this down any more? Do I have any pairs? No. So my answer is just square root 10.
It wouldn't be 10.
Do I have a pair of 10s? No. So you need that square root there. Because remember, the square root of 10 and 10 are 2 different numbers. I don't have any pairs, so I can't take it out, so the square root stays. All right, for F, what should I do first to simplify? Divide what? I can divide 9 into 27, so I'm going to divide the coefficients first. So since I can simplify those, let's get that out of the way. So that'll be 3. 27 divided by 9 is 3. What should I do next? Divide the radicals. So I can put this all under the same radical, 490 divided by 5. 490 ends in a 0, so I know 5 is going to be able to go into it evenly. So let's divide it and see what we get. So 5 goes into 49 9 times. 9 times 5 would be 45. 5 goes into 48 times. So this would be radical 98. So let's see, can I break down 98 anymore? What are 2 factors of 98? 2 and 49. Awesome. What are 2 factors of 49? 7 and 7. So what would I circle? The 7's. So what comes to the outside? 7. What stays on the inside? 2. What else did I already have on the outside? The 3. Don't forget to multiply that 3 on the outside. I would say that is one of the most common mistakes, is people just forget that 3, and it's the easiest thing. It's already there. Just don't forget about it. So 3 times 7 is 21. So my answer is 21 square root 2. All right, looking at J, what can I do first? Multiply the fractions together. How do I multiply fractions? Straight across. So I multiply the tops together, and then I'm going to multiply the bottoms together. So 2 times 9 times 10. 2 times 9 would be 18. Times 10 would be 180. And then on the bottom, I have 5 times 2 times 3. 5 times 2 is 10. Times 3 it would be 30. Can I simplify 180 divided by 30? What does it simplify to? 6. So I have the square root of 6. Let's see if I can break it down. What are 2 factors of 6? 2 and 3. Can I break it down anymore? No. Do I have any pairs? No. So my answer is just square root 6. What should I do first? Divide them. So I can put them all under one radical. So I have 7 over 63. How can I simplify this? Awesome, 1 over 9. Because 7 goes into both 7 and 63 9 times. So it'll be 1 over 9. Now this is the same thing as saying the square root of 1 over the square root of 9. What's the square root of 1? 1. And what's the square root of 9? 3. So my answer is 1/3. Last one from this part, L. What should I do first? Divide the 24 and 6. So what's 24 divided by 6? 4/1. And then I can simplify my radicals. So this is like saying the square root of 56 over 7. What's 56 divided by 7? 8. So this is the square root of 8. Now let's see if we can simplify the square root of 8. What are 2 factors of 8? 4 and 2. 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. What can I circle? The 2's. So what comes to the outside? 2. What stays on the inside? 2. What did I already have on the outside? 4. What do I do to the 4 and the 2 on the outside? Multiply. So our answer is 8 square root 2. So I would say always simplify if you can before. But remember, you can only simplify the whole numbers together or the radicals together. You can't simplify a whole number into a radical. So just simplify the whole numbers together if you can. Simplify the radicals together if you can before you break it down. Any questions here? All right. For number 2, we want to perform the following operations and simplify all radicals. So in order to add or subtract radicals, we need them to be like radicals. So it has to have that same number under the square root. So looking at D, are these like radicals? Yes. So they're like, so I can combine them. How do I combine them? Add the whole number. So I add the coefficients together or subtract. So 2 plus 7 minus 4. 2 plus 7 would be 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. So this is 5. What would come next? Square root 11. Perfect. The radical part stays the same. So we just add or subtract the coefficients. The radical part stays the same. All right, looking at E. Do I have any like radicals? The square root 6's. So I can combine those together. But the other ones are not like, so I can't combine those. But let's see if I can break down square root 6 to be like something else. What are 2 factors of 6? 3 and 2. Do I have any pairs? No. So can I simplify square root 6? No. So I only have 2 like terms. So these are the only 2 that I can combine. So I have 7 minus 3, which is 4. So 4 square root 6. And then what do I do with the other 2? Just leave them. So plus 4 square root 3 plus 2 square root 2. Cannot combine them. We just leave it there. All right, let's look at F. What are 2 factors of 8? 4 and 2. And 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. So what would I circle? The 2's. So what comes to the outside? 2. And 2 stays on the inside. So I have 2 square root 2. And then I want to break down 18 too. So what are 2 factors of 18? 6 and 3. I was going to say 9 and 2, but 6 and 3 works. What are 2 factors of 6? 2 and 3. What would I circle here? Circle the 3's. So what comes to the outside? 3. What stays on the inside? 2. Are these like terms now? Like radicals? Yeah. So can I add them? Yep. So we add the coefficients together. So 2 plus 3 would be 5. And then what would come next? 5 square root 2. That square root 2 stays the same there. So even though they were not like radicals from the start, I can simplify them to become like radicals, and then I can add them together. All right, for number 3, we want to rationalize the denominator. So remember, when we rationalize the denominator, we take whatever radical is in the denominator, and we multiply that same radical to the top and the bottom. So what's my radical in the denominator for A? Square root 3. So I'm going to multiply square root 3 times the top and the bottom. What is 2 times square root 3? 2 square root 3. Awesome. We cannot multiply the whole number outside with the radical inside. So it just stays as 2 square root 3. What is square root 3 times square root 3? 3. Remember, when we multiply a radical times the same thing, it turns into the whole number of that. Can I simplify anything else here? No. So my answer is 2 square root 3 over 3. We cannot divide into a radical with a whole number, so I can't simplify anything else here. So just a reminder, let's say I had square root 5 times square root 5. What would this be? 5. What about square root 99 times square root 99? 99. So when you multiply a square root by itself, the same thing, it turns into the whole number of that. Any questions here? All right, let's look at B. What should I do first here? What should I do first? Simplify. I want to simplify my radical on the bottom before I rationalize. So what are 2 factors of 24? 6 and 4. 2 factors of 6? 2 and 3. And 2 factors of 4? So what would I circle here? The 2 2's. So what comes to the outside? A 2. What stays on the inside? 3 and 2, because those didn't get circled. What do I do to the 2 numbers that stay on the inside? Multiply them. So this is 2 square root 6. So all I did was simplify the bottom to start. The top stays 4 square root 5. Now what do I have to multiply to rationalize? What's my radical in the denominator? Square root 6. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by square root 6. So on the top, what is 4 square root 5 times square root 6? Awesome. 4 square root 30. So I can multiply the radicals together, but that 4 just stays outside. So 4 square root 30. What about on the bottom? What's square root 6 times square root 6? 6. So this is 2 times 6, which is 12. So I have 4 square root 30 over 12. Last step is, let's see if we can simplify. Do I have any numbers that can go into both 4 and 12? 4 goes into both of them. So that would be 1. So I just leave it as square root 30 on top over 12 divided by 4 is 3. So square root 30 over 3. Last step is, let's see if I can break down square root 30. What are 2 factors of 30? 10 and 3. 2 factors of 10? 5 and 2. Can I break it down any more? No. Do I have any pairs? No. So I just leave it as square root 30. So square root 30 over 3. Notice how it doesn't turn into square root 10 because I can't simplify the radical and the whole number. Just leave them. If I had 2 whole numbers, I can simplify those, but I can't divide a whole number into the radical. So for questions like these, we just want to simplify before we rationalize. All right, for C, what should I do first? Multiply what? Multiply square root 6 over square root 6. Remember, whenever you multiply to the bottom, you also have to multiply to the top. Don't forget to do it to both. What is 12 times square root 6? 12 square root 6. Awesome. And what's square root 6 times square root 6? 6. So I have 12 square root 6 over 6. Looking at my whole numbers, can I simplify them? Yeah, what goes into both 12 and 6? 6. So I can divide them both by 6. So 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I have 2 square root 6 over 1, which we don't need to put the over 1 part. So it's just 2 square root 6. It's like saying 2 over 1, but 2 over 1 is just the same thing as 2. So you don't need to put the over 1 part if it's 1.
Can you divide that one over the numerator to the opposite the inside?
No, you don't do it to the inside also. So that square root 6 just stays square root 6. You only do it to the whole numbers outside. Well, I wrote this divided by 6 because we're dividing 12 and 6. Because this was just 12 square root 6 over 6. But we divide both the 12 and the 6 by 6. So the 6 turns into 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. You have to do the top, yeah. You just don't do it inside the radical, but we definitely have to do it to the top too. One more thing I wanted to mention about radicals is make sure you are familiar with perfect squares. So if I had, let's say, the square root of 9, what would that be? 3. What about the square root of 36? 6. What about the square root of 81? 9. What about the square root of 121? 11. What about the square root of 144? 12. Awesome. So just make sure you're familiar with perfect squares because that'll save you time on the test. So looking at number 12, my bases are the same. So what do I do when I'm dividing? Subtract the exponents. This would be 12 to the 5th power minus 7. So what's 5 minus 7? Negative 2. And we don't like negative exponents, so what do I do to the negative exponent? Put it under 1. So this would be 12 squared. And what is 12 squared? 144. Awesome. So this would be 1 over 144. So remember, whenever we have a negative exponent, you want to put it on the bottom. Negative coefficients are fine. If this was like a negative 12, that's fine. We can have negative numbers, just not negative exponents. All right, let's take a look at number 8. What should I do first? Distribute. So distribute the 2 to everything, and then again, I'm going to distribute here. So 1/2 squared x squared y squared times 1/3 squared x squared y to the power of negative 1 squared. What can I do next? So square them. So what's 1/2 squared? 1/4. Awesome. And then I have x squared y squared times, what's 1/3 squared? 1/9. X squared. This turns into what? Y to the power of negative 2. What can I do next? So the y squared is going to go to the bottom. I can also combine the x's, right? Because those are both on top. So it's x squared times x squared. X to the 4th power. We can leave that on top. The y squared is also going to go on top. This y squared is going to go to the bottom. And then since these were fractions, I can put 4 and 9 on the bottom because this is like saying 1 over. If I wanted to put the 1 and the 1 on top, but you don't have to because it's just 1 times 1, so we don't need to write that. But the 4 and the 9 are going to go on the bottom because they are fractions. Okay, so I can simplify this a little bit more. What do I do to the y's now? Subtract them. So 2 minus 2 would be 0. What's y to the power of 0? 1. So we don't write it because it's just 1. So I just have x to the 4th power over, what's 4 times 9? 36. You could have also written this as 1 over 36 times x to the 4th power. These are the same thing. Either way works. So these are both fine. So let's say I had 2 to the power of negative 3 over 2 to the 6th power. Remember, we don't like negative exponents, so what can I do here? Bring it to the bottom. What do I do to the 2 to the 6th power? Just leave it on the bottom. A lot of people flipped them and brought the 2 to the 6th power on top. We just leave it on the bottom. So this would be 1 over 2 to the 3rd power times 2 to the 6th power. Now, how would I combine these together? Add the exponents. So 1 over 2 to the 9th power. We can just leave it like that. Another one was 3x to the 4th power squared. What should I do first here? Distribute. A lot of people forgot to distribute that squared to the 3. So it's 3 squared and x to the 4th power squared. What is 3 squared? 9. People were putting 6. It is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. And then what do I do when I have a power raised to a power? Multiply. So this is 9x to the 8th power. Would be 5x to the power of 0 over 15x to the power of negative 3y squared cubed. What should I do first? I want to simplify inside before I distribute, because if I distribute first, I'd be cubing 5 and cubing 15. So that would be 15 times 15 times 15, which we don't want to do that if we don't have to. So let's simplify our coefficients on the inside, the x's, and we can simplify the y's, I guess. There's only one y, but let's do the coefficients first. What goes into both 5 and 15? 5 goes into both of them, so I'm going to divide them both by 5. So that would be 1 over 3. What is x to the power of 0? 1, so we can get rid of that x. And then if I have x to the power of 3, to the power of negative 3 on the bottom, how do I make that exponent positive? Bring it to the top. So x to the power of 3 now goes to the top. And then y squared on the bottom. And then this is all cubed still. Now what can I do? Distribute. So I'm going to distribute the cube to the x, the 3, and the y. So this is x cubed to the 3rd power over 3 to the 3rd power times y squared to the 3rd power. What do I do when I have a power raised to a power? Multiply. So x to the 9th power over, what's 3 cubed? 27. And then y to what power? Y to the 6th power. So don't forget for tomorrow, when you are multiplying, so x to the 2nd power times x to the 4th power, what do I do to my exponents? Add the exponent. So this would be x to the 6th power. If I'm dividing, so let's say I had x to the 6th power over x squared, what do I do to my exponents? Subtract. So this would be x to the 4th power. Remember, it's top minus bottom. And then if I had, let's say, x to the 4th power to the second power, what do I do to my exponents? Multiply, so x to the 8th power. So these are your 3 properties of exponents, so make sure you know them.